it going, everybody? It's Josh Rimini here with your Functional RX podcast, and this week we are going to talk about a topic that I teach a lot in nationally for pharmacies, is the topic of drug-induced nutrient deficiencies.
Sounds smart.
So what does that mean, really?
Great question, because I had that one again.
So almost every medication robs the body of a nutrient when taken, probably about half. So if you can imagine, so we'll go over some lists of common ones, but we always associate prescriptions with side effects. But what if the side effect of the drug was it lowered the body's ability to absorb B12, for example. So all the food you ate didn't have enough B12 because you didn't get it to the tissue because you took a drug that depleted the body's sources of it. So
now, is that a genetic thing, or is that specific drugs do that?
Specific to the drugs, yeah.
Okay.
So you could layer on genetics, which I do a lot, right? What if you have a problem with methylation and you didn't have enough folate in your body's methylfolate to get rid of homocysteine and methylation reactions and all that stuff. But what if you took a drug that depleted the body's sources of folate, and then you have a genetic problem with folate, and then you got that double whammy? So I talk to my patients all the time about, all right, because we're pharmacists, right? We're charged to talk to patients about the side effect of medication. And if the side effect is a depletion of a nutrient, let's say B12, for example, then we recommend a repletion of that, so they don't get the side effects associated with the depletion of a nutrient.
Right.
B12 is super important for DNA repair and synthesis and energy levels, and sometimes it's as simple as identifying a nutritional imbalance and repleting it.
That was my next question. If you're taking certain drugs that has a normalcy to deplete something, would you recommend your nutrition to be adjusted to get different?
And you can sometimes get it from food, and sometimes you have to get it from supplements or both, right? So there's certain, we all know that, iron is rich in certain types of foods and things of that nature. But what's been going on all this time is people will take a drug and it'll rob the body of the nutrient, but we take chronic medications chronically, right? We take them daily. So if you can think about the nutritional deficiencies mounting up over time, it gets more and more severe because we are less and less inclined to understand it. A good example is the acid suppressing drugs like PPIs, like Protonix and Nexium and Prilosec. Massive amounts of people take them either over the counter or by prescription, and they take them daily, right? Because they don't want that heartburn or that GERD to happen.
They'd rather just keep eating real bad.
Well, they lower acidity, right? But what's the side effect of lowering acidity? So this is kind of the mechanism behind this deficiency. Well, we lower our ability to activate the things that break down proteins, and there's magnesium, B12 deficiencies, calcium. So the side effect of these drugs long term is, femurs break and bone density goes down.
Yeah.
Well, what if that was the side effect of those meds? What if that was a direct correlation to the depletion of that nutrient over so many years? So we try to, magnesium, I've talked about it before, it's responsible for like 400 reactions in your body. You really kind of want that on board.
You kind of need that.
It's more of a micronutrient, right? We need lots of it. Well, if you're taking 1, 2, or maybe 3 drugs that deplete certain nutrients, you're going to be in a backlag. So proton pump inhibitors, those drugs, those acid suppressors, we need bone support. We need magnesium. We need B12. Another good one, well, antibiotics. That's the one that always people understand, right? Because probiotics are so popular now, and we know more about the microbiome, and you see all the commercials for all the different types of probiotics. The consumers know that the critters down there are really important. Well, we all know that antibiotics that are designed to kill bad bacteria in our systems also kill the good stuff, right? So we always recommend repleting the gut from the barrage of the antibiotic with certain probiotic strains, right? So that's a nutrient depletion, because those probiotics are not just happy critters down there. I think that's going to be one of our next topics, is
critters?
just talk about critters.
Hey, I do get a question
the
then.
Microbiome.
That, and I don't know if this is off topic, because you're smart. Kombucha. So what's the deal with that? Why is this becoming a thing?
It's a fermented beverage, right? So the fermentation process creates live cultured bacteria, which is healthy for us nutritionally.
So it's almost
it's like a mini probiotic.
I was going to say, it's got to be the same as a probiotic, just not on the same level.
I always tell people, using fermented foods, in this case, sauerkraut's fermented foods, there's things that have prebiotic and probiotic cultures. Prebiotic means food for the critters, right? So food for the probiotic strains. These fermented foods contain a lot of prebiotic fibers that the microbiome feeds on, and also is good for gut health. We know so much about the gut down there. There's trillions of bacteria down there. There's more cells down there than we have in our own body. They're important for different types of synthesis of vitamins and nutrient absorption, all sorts. 70% of your neurotransmitters, 70% of your or more of your immune function is those guys. Like I said, whole topic just for that. But in this case, those drugs that we use to fight bacteria and when we're sick also have health consequences on destroying the gut. There's a specific antibiotic, clindamycin, that we use quite a bit for people that are, allergic to penicillin, allergic to erythromycin, all that type of stuff. It's like one of those heavy hitters, if you will. 10 days supply of clindamycin can wipe out your entire microbiome for 6 months.
Oh, wow.
So if we don't replete, what happens is, when the good critters go away, bad ones start to grow, and people have probably heard of C. diff or C. difficile. Super hard to treat. It's a gut bacteria. When overgrowth can cause lots of problems with the toxins it produces. I
can't imagine that's good.
No. So if you didn't replete the gut with good bacteria, the chances of clindamycin causing C. diff is much more problematic, for sure. So that's an easy one for us at the pharmacy. I'd say 80 to 90% of all of our patients that get antibiotics will get a probiotic. We're really good at that one. Other ones to consider, birth control, oral estrogens. I always feel is an important one, because when a young female gets put on birth control for the first time, those oral estrogens deplete certain B vitamins, B6 being one of them. And what happens when there's a depletion of B6 is very, very important for neurotransmitter production. So if we lower the food sources for these mood stabilizing and helping neurotransmitters by taking a drug, or in this case birth control or oral contraceptive, the side effect of oral contraceptives is depression. But what if that depression was due to the lack of a certain B vitamin that got depleted when you started it? So but what happens when a young female goes on birth control and then she becomes depressed? The doctor will give her an antidepressant, right? Yeah. So then what if we missed, because we
layer it on with another drug rather than replenishing the...
What if we repleted the nutrients that the drug was depleting, and we avoided that altogether, right? We stabilized the mood. Another great example for oral birth control is folic acid. Well, folic acid is very important to prevent certain types of birth defects. We know that. But what if a female's been on birth control for years and then gets married, or in your case, your wife decides wants to have babies, goes right off birth control, right? And then let's say the next cycle they got pregnant. Well, the first trimester of folate deficiency is what causes all these birth defects. So it can take 1 to 2, maybe even 3 months to replete stores up. So if we didn't educate someone on the importance of maintaining high levels of B vitamins before they got pregnant, again, we've done a good job if we've trained them and educated them on that.
Right. And that's really all we're trying to do with our podcast, with our social media. We're just trying to educate people so you can have better results with things.
And the reason that we're doing this podcast now is so I can get that voice out too, because I've been doing this stuff for years.
It's really hard to talk to one person over and over again. If we could talk to 1,000 people within this 15-20 minute podcast, and you can have 1,000 people hear the message rather than just that one person,
right,
you feel like you've done your job.
Well, I think the messaging is so much more important than these singular transactions. Yeah, you can make a difference, a big difference in larger amounts of lives. What if that one thing I just said today about birth control and folic acid, you know, you can replete B vitamins easy. They're cheap. Get a good quality, high potency multivitamin and take it. You know, another reason to take a good multivitamin. You can address a lot of these nutrient deficiencies with meds. Metformin is a common medication for people to take with type 2 diabetes. It helps with blood sugar management, and it's very successful. It's a great drug. Well documented B12 deficiencies associated with metformin. So what is very common for a diabetic is to get neuropathy in their feet mostly, right? When you have misguided blood sugar over time, and your elevated blood sugar, it destroys the nerve endings, and you get this type of neuropathy that diabetics get. Well, there's a type of neuropathy also associated with B12 deficiency. So
common thing
common
here.
threads is, well, I'm only giving you my anecdotal information, because these are things that have literally happened to me. I had a patient that was treated for diabetic neuropathy with expensive drugs too. Lyrica's not cheap, gabapentin, went through the whole arsenal for nothing was helping his neuropathy. And then they found that he had a B12 deficiency.
Oh, look at there.
Oh, wait, he was on metformin. So let's repeat the B12. What happened?
Got fine.
Neuropathy went away. So the moral of the story is, if we don't get out there and educate on these things sound so simple, right? Oh, it's just a little B12, I'm fine. But we have these documented cases of issues that happen with these deficiencies.
Right.
A big one for me is the statin drugs and CoQ10. You know, it depletes CoQ10 because this way that statins work is the same way that our body makes CoQ10. Right. And it's a pretty well-known supplement now, but generally speaking, CoQ10's really important for every energy-producing cell in our body. And the most energy-producing organ systems are our gut, our brain, and our heart, right? So if you're taking a statin for cardiovascular health or high cholesterol so you can have cardiovascular health, and you're depleting the body's sources of CoQ10, you've just lowered the octane level of your body's energy capacity.
You're just taking Dr. Phil and you're going to the next level. Because
he
got everybody. I mean, I just remember I used to have a supplement company where I would, you know, I'd just sell what people were asking for, and they were not good supplements. It was just what I had to do. I didn't have to do it, but CoQ10 just got super popular, and people were buying it left and right, and it was after the Dr. Phil episode, but no one knew why. It was more of just, well Dr. Phil said to take it.
There's things with absorption on CoQ10 as well. It's a super huge molecule. It crystallizes on itself. It's poorly absorbed, so a crystal-free solubilized form is important. Again, you get what you pay for in supplementation. I tend to gravitate on the clinical professional side of supplementation because all of this is science-based. There's a pharmacology behind every nutritional product, just like there's a pharmacology behind every drug product or medication that we take. Right. So, yeah, everything boils down to those little energy-producing ATP mitochondria in our cells. If that's out of balance, nothing can work.
Right. And so when people are taking some of these medications that would deplete their nutrients, what do you suggest that they do to make sure that they stay in balance, and to make sure that if something were to come out of balance, they were able to replenish what they are reduced in now?
Well, first is to do an assessment, right? And you this is probably something you could Google, right? Or Dr. Google, the evidence-based stuff behind this. Now, it's hard to predict or show somebody that lowering levels of nutrients is going to cause a consequence. But I always talk to people about optimal nutrition, not RDA, recommended daily allowance kind of stuff. Because the RDA of nutritional products was only created to identify the risk of the disease associated with the deficiency. So like scurvy and vitamin C. Well, you need 60 milligrams a day to not get scurvy. So in order to not die from vitamin C deficiency, you need 60 milligrams. But is that optimal? We're one of the only mammals in the world that don't make a synthesized vitamin C. So it's an essential nutrient. We need to get it from our diet. Goats make 50,000 milligrams of vitamin C per day. And we're a little bit bigger than goats, or at least you're twice as big as a goat. So does 60 milligrams make sense from an optimal perspective?
Of course not.
But that's what people think they need, right? Because the RDA says,
what it says.
My allowance is I need 60 milligrams. Well, in reality, for optimal nutrition, you probably need a little more. So having a consultation or a pathway to understanding the nutrient deficiencies is one. Like, all right, when we do this screening with all of our patients, like these are kind of things you get when you come to someone that really understands and cares about what you're going to do. But like I said, I teach this to pharmacists for years now. Not a lot of pharmacists are getting that we need to educate our patients on this nutrient deficiency.
Right.
It's a side effect of a drug, and that's kind of our job. So they're getting it, but it's becoming more known. There's books about it now. There's a book called Drug Muggers. It was written by a pharmacist, Susie Cohen, and that was a good book for me to read and for other people to read. But it's really, all right, do I take a med? Does it have the potential to deplete a nutrient, yes or no? If so, what is it? And then what's the strategy behind repletion? Can I eat more green leafies, right? Or can I eat more foods associated with some of those nutrients? Or can I cheat, if you will, with supplements? And sometimes you can't eat CoQ10. It's not like it's abundant in all sorts of things. So it's kind of, and then if there's polypharma involved, what if there's 3 or 4 drugs that deplete the same nutrient? Well, I'm going to look at those a little bit more, right? I'm going to look at those more from those standpoints. And there's kind of like my top 5. I always have top 5 categories, and the ones we talked about today, the birth control, the metformin, B12, the proton pump inhibitors for bone support and protein. Looking at the statins or the CoQ10. There's other cholesterol and cardiovascular medications. Some of those other ones can deplete certain electrolytes or nutrients as well. So knowing what's you're getting robbed of, and then repleting it and coming up with a schedule. And I'd rather have someone take a good quality supplement every other day than taking a crappy one once a day.
Right.
You get what you pay for. It's either good for you or good for your wallet. It's generally not both, right? So every time I say to somebody, hey, this is the best one on the planet, and then I say for the price.
Right.
I can recommend much more expensive, but you got to be careful. Labeling requirements aren't regulated very well. The FDA doesn't really have the strength or power to mandate what's on the label be actually in the bottle, and generally speaking, most run-of-the-mill supplements I don't trust.
Yeah, if it's not pharmaceutical grade, generally what's on the label is not 100% accurate.
Well, it's funny because I don't know if I mentioned this on last week's or not, but I read an article that CVS Health, the big chain drugstore, they were taking a stand and going to make sure that they third-party analyzed all the supplements on their shelf to make sure that what's on the label was in the bottle. Well, they made it sound like nobody did that, and like we've been vetting that process for 10 years, and I've been using the right products. As soon as they announced that, 7% of their supplements got pulled off the shelf. So, they want the glory for saying, oh, I'm the best, look at me, but they could have been doing that for the time that they should have been doing.
Right.
Why wouldn't you vet it if you're a health, So anyway, I just thought that funny because that's kind of the cloth I came from. But that's big business for you,
That's
right?
Well, speaking of big business, you're a car guy. What kind of car stuff you got going on? Anything good?
Yes, I'm anticipating the delivery of my new Jeep Gladiator.
When will that be here? And
when and what is it, right? It's a Jeep with a truck bed on it. It's pretty cool.
It's amazing.
So I got a pre-order special version of it, and it's it's en route. It's going to be here within weeks. So,
really?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was going to be like next year kind of thing.
Nah, they special built it. Did delivering, and I got the cherry red version in honor of my old Jeep. So
that's gonna be fun. Where are you going first in it?
I don't know. My wife said I can't really go right to Uwari and go off roading with it yet. So I'll probably just have some fun with it. I'm actually exploring. We talked about nanoparticles in our last episode, right, with the liposomes. Well, I'm researching ceramic nano coating for cars. It's like a thing. Like you put this extra coat on your car, and it's supposed to be like no wax ever needed ever.
So you're gonna have a nanoparticle Jeep.
I think so. I'm gonna look and geek out on that stuff.
Awesome.
That's my car update.
Fantastic. Well, we appreciate all the information because I surely get a bunch of education whenever we come and talk.
Yeah, like I said, man, we're here to just make sure that things that I've been hearing and talking to my patients about one-on-one, we can get to a bigger level. And that's why, we appreciate everybody listening, and all my patients are like, yeah, I got the next podcast. That was awesome.
So make sure you share, comment, subscribe, tell all your friends, all that fun stuff.
Like me.
Like me. Be my friend.
Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff. Thank you for helping me out with all that stuff, Ryan.
That's all I'm good for.
I'm a science guy.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I'll just put it in front of the people that you want to hear it.